Welcome to Hip Hop Now Podcast. If you're from the future, you know what to do. Get your ass out of here. Don't disrespect the legend. Hip hop is here to stay. Let's get right into the business.
What up, y'all? I am your host, Vegas, and this is Hip Hop Now Podcast, a podcast specifically designed to keep you caught up on all things hip hop, music, and culture that happened throughout the week. Big shout out to the supporters of this podcast on audio form, whether you're listening through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any third party podcasting app. I like to use Pocket Cast. I just prefer it. I'm just saying. And they're not giving me a dime to say that, by the way. Also, if you are watching on the audio, on the video side of things, we have been on a mission that started last year to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2024. We wound up hitting that right before the new year, and then we kind of blasted off. And so I was like, okay, well, let's go for 5,000 at the end of 2025. But then before we can even hit the halfway point, because we're not there yet, within 2025, we hit 5,000 subscribers. And then, it was kind of cool and steady, and there was more subscribers that came through. Appreciate you, new, past, present, whatever. And then I said, okay, well, let's go for it then. By the end of 2025, Hip Hop Now podcast in video form, we want to hit 10,000 subscribers. And people, I'm here to tell you, we are not at 10,000 yet, but we are at 8,000. And if you watch this show or you listen to this show, just a week ago on this podcast, we were at 6,000. So that's 2,000 in a week. My numbers are up. Okay. I'm up. All right. So I appreciate everybody who subscribes to this channel. Again, whether you come here for this weekly news program or some of my media stuff coming out, but the program podcast, or you come here for, the shorts, and for people who don't know, who've probably been following for a while, on my IG, which you can follow me everywhere, but at Vegas World INC, in my stories, I like to share dope hip hop content I see coming from other individuals, whether that's a video, a freestyle, a rap battle, something about hip hop. I like to reshare. So my whole vibe is to reshare other people's content as well, because I think it's dope. So I started doing the very same thing right here on YouTube, and people appreciate it, sparking conversation about artists and things like that. But there are some people who also subscribe to this channel because they like the historical podcast that I do called That Time in Hip Hop with the homie Tony from Into the Dome podcast. And we have like 70 something episodes talking about albums in history, moments in history, producers, labels, films, artists, obviously, all kinds of things, right? In hip hop, 70 something episodes, and it's right here on this channel. But we just did a new episode, and this episode is dedicated to Ruthless Records. We talk about the impact of Ruthless Records, not only at that point in time in history in the early 90s, or really, the late 80s, but also the tree, the roots of the tree that extend from Eazy-E taking his street money and funding Ruthless Records to start and have groups like NWA and the DOC, and even on the R&B side, Michelle A, Above the Law, obviously Bone Thugs also. So me and Tony in this podcast, we literally go from the beginning. We talk about the impact of the label. We talk about how the label doesn't get talked about enough. Obviously, we talk about Eazy-E. The whole thing with when Dre and Suge Knight and DOC left, the story about, the story, air quotes, about, Eazy being forced to sign them over. And we debunked that. And it's pretty simple. You don't even really have to hear that much from the people back then. It's just some logic. So again, we talk about the label, we go over everything, we talk about, where it stopped, obviously with Eazy-E. Check that out. That's on the channel. That Time in Hip Hop, the impact of Ruthless Records. And for you audio listeners, it's also available. And I mean, if you're subscribed, you already know it's in your feed. But if you're an audio listener who came across this video and wants to go subscribe in audio form, you can also listen to it there. Those videos tend to be longer form videos because we gotta say all the things. I mean, we got to say all the things, you know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. Oh, first of all, Nick's up. Okay. Morgan State University as well. This is for all the video people watching. This is how I'm dressed. And I just said that for all the audio people watching. So big shout out to hiphopdx.com, especially allhiphop.com coming through with the receipts. And some of the places where I get some of these stories from. Let's get right to the business, though. So last week I reported. Well, first of all, if you're from the future and it's already happened, and come on, dog, get your ass out of here. You know everything already, okay? But last week I reported on Rhymefest talking about a rap battle that took place in I think like '98. Again, with him versus Eminem. And in this interview that he was in, he said that Eminem called him the N-word, which was like, whoa, what? To you? To your face? In front of people? And nothing happened? It was almost unbelievable, but we had no reason not to believe him unless you were there, right? So it turns out that was not true. That was not true. So as a hip-hop journalist, in this sense, because that's what my podcast is. We're looking for the truth. And shout out to allhiphop.com who received the complete footage. Now, I'm not trying to be that guy, but we know in 2025 things could be edited. Of course, that could happen anytime, but with AI, we can tweak things, right? You can watch a video that's blurry from '98 with Eminem's Back to You, and you hear the rhyme, and the rhyme can be edited, right? But we're gonna go where the story is because I don't think Rhymefest has said anything about it. Here's the story being reported by hiphopdx.com. Rhymefest claimed that he was called the N-word by Eminem during a rap battle in the late 1990s. However, it appears that was not actually the case, according to All Hip Hop, who received complete footage of the rap battle in question from D12's Keneva. I didn't listen to D12. I don't know what Tommy Davis said. Who are these niggas? I just never listened to D12. I'm sorry. Eminem does not say the racial slur at any point during the exchange. The footage proves that Rhymefest misremembered the line Eminem threw at him. And you can go to allhiphop.com's Instagram. They have the video up there. I'm just going to warn people who probably like to listen to this podcast and don't generally hear curse words. You might hear a few when I play this video. So let's play it for the audience. So there was a lot of cuss words, but I didn't hear the N word. So let's see if he said anything else. Okay, I'll just read the lyrics also if you couldn't hear that. However, in the footage, Eminem can clearly be heard rapping, "I'll let my razor split you till they have to staple stitch you, and everybody in this effing place will miss you if you try to turn my facial issue into a racial issue. And at the end, at the end of this article, it says Rhymefest has yet to comment on the development, while Eminem did not respond to the initial accusation. Bad boys move in silence. D12 always got Eminem back. So honestly, it was reported. People reacted to it because there was no reason to not trust Rhymefest, because I don't think he gave us a reason to not trust him at any point. But this, and I watched the video when he talked about it. Hearing this, knowing what he was saying, watching his face as he was saying it in the interview, he either knew he was lying because he had an interview and he wanted to, say something that would get some traction with news media, and it did, well, hip hop media, and it did. But now this looks bad. This looks bad because if Rhymefest came out and be like, "Hey, man, I'm standing right there. That video's edited," then whatever. But clearly, it was not said. So let's move on. So this past week, it was announced. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame announced who was going to be inducted into the 2025 class, and they've been doing more than one hip hop artist, seems like, each year, which I think is dope. And this year is Outkast and Salt-N-Pepa getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Now, I know cats have been saying this for years, and maybe you are a young hip hop head, getting your feet wet, mouth full of Similac. I guess pause on that, whatever. Bars also. But you may be saying, but it's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Who cares? And why do they get in versus somebody else? I'll answer both for you, shorty. Okay, and don't call me uncle. I'm not your uncle. Okay, but you can call me OG. That's cool. I kind of like that. But I feel like on the one hand, with the first question or whatever, is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as it relates to rappers getting in. When you look at Outkast and Salt-N-Pepa, who are hip hop legends in the game, they've done so much to represent hip hop in so many different ways, especially being from two different regions. So I kind of like that as well, because hip hop is not one borough, hip hop is not one city or coast or nothing. It's all of it. It's global now. Let's just keep it a buck. It's global now. Okay, but I kind of feel like when it comes to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, as a rapper, they do look at a certain level of success, right? Which is not exactly how we look at it, right? Like Outkast have sold records. Salt-N-Pepa have sold records. They have, whether it was intentional or not, they have crossover hits, right? They have fans that are not just all hip hop fans. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's actually a good thing, right? Because you spread what real hip hop is. And some have played with that and, kind of gone off the deep end and lost a little integrity with what they create. But at the end of it all, it's about the fact that this group is bigger than just the hip hop category, right? And that's how they get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And it makes sense for that kind of criteria. But when hip hop heads talk about, um, which is going to happen because there's the hip hop museum going up, but we talk about our Hall of Fame, well, then it's different because it's not just about sales. Sometimes it's not even, you have to have impact. Like, they're not letting anybody into a hip hop Hall of Fame. You have to have some form of impact, but it doesn't have to mean that you went platinum, right? Rakim is one of the greatest rappers of all time, Coogee Rap also, they fathered in style and cadence and influence some of your favorite rappers to this day. Some of the people you feel comfortable calling the GOAT, those are just two examples. Similar on the West Coast with Ice Cube and Snoop. They've influenced so many, right? But the thing I want to get back to with Rakim and Coogee Rap specifically, they didn't sell a lot of records. Now, the way you hear us talk about them, you would think platinum was easy, especially for an album like Eric B. and Rakim's Paid in Full. It's a it's a monument in hip hop because it was just so I was gonna say Mount Rushmore, that's what I really meant. But it's just such a staple, a cornerstone within hip hop that the minute you mention it for hip hop heads, that's the thought. Like, and if it was a official Hall of Fame that, hip hop has tried in the past and kind of failed and didn't have the, I think through the source also, didn't have the staying power of what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is to feel like the official hip hop, hall. Rakim's getting in quick. He's getting in before a lot of the people who are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I don't believe Rakim is in the Hip Hop Hall of Fame. And that's why. That's the difference, right? You, for one, the people who are kind of running this, and you get to vote because I voted myself for Outkast and Salt-N-Pepa. But the people who, like, at the end of the day would probably decide this, and I'm kind of loose on, how these things work, because I doubt it's just a vote, because I think if, for example, Rakim started to put up or started to do a campaign to get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame next year, and it was solely based off of public voting, he getting in because hip hop going to show up for Rakim. But that just makes me think this is a different kind of hall where you have to have some commercial success, and he just doesn't. Right? He doesn't come close to having the type of success that Salt-N-Pepa had with some of their hit records in the 90s that people love, like Shoop and What a Man and all of that, and all the other work they did, but also their foundation within hip-hop. Like, I love Tramp to this day. I love that record. It's probably my favorite Salt-N-Pepa record, I'm not gonna lie. And then Outkast, what more can you say? Outkast, shout out to Tony from Into the Dome podcast. He put it best on Twitter, where he said Outkast doesn't have an album that sounds the same. Not one. Not one album. And I think in total they have what, 5 or maybe 6 counting Idlewild. Let's go through it. Southern Playalistic, AT Aliens, Stankonia. Stankonia. What's the other one I'm forgetting? Quimini. And so it's 6 because Love Below and Speaker Box, and then Idlewild soundtrack, which I love. I don't know why people hate it. I like it. It's good. But none of them sound the same. All of them are different. And you know what? With Idlewild, the movie was whack. I agree with that. Bars. But the music was great. And when you think about all this stuff about Delta Blues and the movie Sinners, Idlewild is kind of ahead of its time. My voice get high. Like, go back and watch the movie. It's terrible. Well, just go back and watch it. There's no vampires in it. Relax. But when you listen to the music and those influences and what they were going for, they were kind of already putting the spotlight on black music in that way, or blues in general, as far as influences back then. And Outkast has so many different albums. Like, it's almost like you could pick a version of Outkast that you like. You know what I'm saying? So they've sold records. They're a huge group. I would love for them to, after the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, announce, just do it right on stage. Announce a shadow drop. Okay. I said it like an old man, but that's because I listen to the children. Okay. I listen to the kids when they talk. Okay. Vegas love the kids. A shadow drop, a shadow drop for people who are older is basically like a surprise drop of music, or that term is kind of popular in the video game world. But right there on the stage, we want to thank, we want to thank, we want to thank, we want to thank. South got something to say. New Outkast album dropping tonight at midnight. Boom. The frenzy that would ensue online, on social media, anticipation would be crazy. And I ain't talking about no EP. Also don't want no 30 songs, right? Just a clean, maybe 12 song new album from Outkast. Here you go, tour with whoever coming later. Man, listen. First of all, pause. But man, listen. Listen when I tell you. Okay? That's how the old heads used to talk to us and be like, what? It would just be dope. So we'll see. Congratulations to Outkast. Congratulations to Salt-N-Pepa, who don't always get mentioned when we're talking about female MCs in the hip hop game. Salt-N-Pepa got something to say. All right. And lastly, so this week we got a couple of new drops of music, or projects in general, and I was trying to decide on which album, EP I should review. And then I kind of thought, like, well, why don't I just do a quick review of all three? Now, I do these reviews just to inform the hip hop heads who might be looking for something new or want to know, like, yo, is this still good? Is he still good at what he does? What else is out? Blah, blah, blah. So if you don't know, I rate albums and EPs and projects by giving them 3 listens. The first listen is just me kind of vibing and listening to what's being presented. The second listen is now I'm going to listen more intently to the lyrics, connect the concepts, all those different things, like really get a deep dive into the album, really pay attention to what the artist is presenting. And the third listen is just to confirm my thoughts. So first up, we're going to do 3 albums real quick. 3 projects real quick. First up, brand new album from Lloyd Banks, who has been feeding the hip hop public. It was like Lloyd Banks disappeared for a while, even though some of us who know, especially in the Dat Piff days, the Halloween Havoc mixtapes crazy. And I kept wondering, like, why does he make more music? Well, when the pandemic went down, Lloyd Banks said, you know what, y'all about to get a trilogy upon trilogy. He's released probably like 6 albums or something crazy. And a couple, I think like 2 or 3 mixtapes. Well, his latest album is AON3, Despite My Mistakes. It is 18 songs. And with Lloyd Banks, he doesn't do skits. So he giving you 18 songs, and I'm not talking about 2 minutes here, 1 minute and 21 seconds. No, he old school. He giving you a couple of 5-minute records and all that, 18 of them joints. But it only clocks in at 1 hour and 5 minutes, which is still fun. Guest features include Ransom, Styles P, Ghostface. First of all, those 3, their verses on his album, chef's kiss. Perfect collaborations on perfect songs. What do I feel about this album? Just straight up on a rated, I think it's definitely one of the best of the year. I wouldn't put it in my top 5 because I feel like he could have, even though the songs are dope, he could have removed maybe 4 or 5 songs from it, because Lloyd Banks is very monotone. His delivery, his inflections really don't change that much, but he's dumb nice with the pen. So that's why you pull up to listen to what he got to say. And again, the guest appearances are great. But what I like most about this album is sometimes Lloyd Banks can put out a project and the beats are so-so, right? Like the last Halloween Havoc, it was like, oh, it's cool. My expectations were much higher, but it's all right. This one though, the beats are fire. Like, and again, these songs are longer than you're used to hearing. Yeah, hopefully, I don't have to say pause after that. Uh, but it's just like it's great. So I think that was it for me, right? Like when I'm getting to like the 10th song, I kept feeling like the album was about to be over. And I didn't realize like, yo, there's mad songs left. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like a gift and a curse, right? Like it's dope. You should love it. I think if you don't listen to a lot of hip hop and you kind of like live with the one or two things you like and you like Lloyd Banks, you'll like this album. It's enough there to keep you going, listening. You can recite the lyrics and all that. I really like what he did with Art of Rap. If you want some real hip hop lyricism, wordplay, flipping, things, because it's about rap. And he does a lot of mentioning names of rappers, but you'll see, just listen to that record. It's the way he ties it together. It's dope. Um, yeah, I think it's a dope album. Won't be in my top 5 because of what I said earlier about how long the album is and with him kind of being monotone. My mind started to drift a little bit as we got like past track 12. So but it's a great album. Listen to it for yourself, decide for yourself. Another project that dropped, it's being listed as an album, but dog, this is an EP. Benny the Butcher released an EP called Excelsior, right? Where did I hear that from? Like Back to the Future or something like that? Whatever. But it's 7 songs, 20 minutes and 23 seconds. So that is definitely EP territory. Features, he has who else is on here? I can't see. Most of these people I do not know who they are. Okay. But Bodie James is on here. And y'all know, or maybe you don't know. I'm not the biggest Bodie James fan because I'm not the biggest fan of his style of rap, which is that disinterested, stupid kind of rap flow. But Boldy showed up on this record. He got a little energy on it. It's called Duffel Bag Hottie's Revenge. And I think, I know when I said that, he probably like, what? I think the idea was kind of like a real laid back kind of joint as far as the album. Styles P is crazy on here on a song called Toxic. Styles P, I know he mentioned maybe a year ago that he was going to record a final album. I think that final album is going to be crazy because Styles, when I heard him rapping on this and he's on the Lloyd Banks joint, I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound like a man who needs to retire. No, that sounds like a man who needs to just don't make albums all the time. At one point, Styles P was coming out with albums like it felt like every week. And it was a lot because some albums were really dope. He was never really whack, but some albums were just kind of like, eh. And I said I'll do a tear piss. A tear piss. Wow. What is a tear piss? What is that? Blame it on allergies, y'all. Uh Tier list where I rank Styles P's catalog. I thought about doing it for the Locks in general, but not just as group albums, but just all the Locks solo joints. This Jadakiss is the one where you can look at it and say, "Oh, it's just a couple of albums. I'll do that." But Styles and Sheik have so many albums. I don't know if I could do it, fam. I don't know. So maybe I'll just do that tier list for Styles because he's put in a lot of work, and I think his catalog is slept on. As far as this Benny the Butcher project, I'm a big Benny the Butcher fan, and I gotta watch my words because last year I wasn't like too hyped about his album, and then I wound up not the summertime Benny joint, the one like Everybody Can't Go. I think that was the name of the title. Name of the album. We're gonna end this podcast quick, boy, because I am the meds got me going crazy with this allergy. But I talked about that album last year, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed." And then the more I listened to it, I was like, "Okay, I like the album." What was I thinking? I think it's going to be the same for this. Whereas I don't feel like this is top notch Benny the Butcher rhyming, like his best rhyming ever. I like the beats. I like some of the rhymes. I think it's good. I don't know if it's going to make best of the year because it's not extraordinary to me. Like the albums that I would add to the best of the year so far, at least right now, maybe it would make the list, but that's recency bias basically when it comes to that. So that's that. If you like Benny the Butcher, this may be hit or miss. I'm curious to see what people think. Leave your comments in the comment section below. And lastly, there was a new EP from Jericho Jackson. No, that's not the other Jackson brother who was adopted. That's a group featuring rapper Elzhi and producer Krysis. They did a project a while back that is really dope. I think it was self-titled Jericho Jackson. Yeah, Krysis and Elzhi are Jericho Jackson. I'm probably gonna spin that again because it's been a while. They released that in 2018. It was like critically acclaimed when it came to the hip hop heads. I believe I had it as one of the best of the year, maybe not top 5. They got a new EP called I Am Him. But I will say this, it's cool, but it's really only 3 songs, 3 short songs. And the other 6 tracks, the other 3 tracks are instrumentals of those songs. So it's 13 minutes total. And I'm a little disappointed. I'm not gonna front. I kind of expected more. I guess I was hyped a little bit because I thought we were getting an album, right? And maybe this is to lead to an eventual album, and these are the quote unquote throwaways from what we're going to get. To that, I say you should have dropped the album. Because honestly, I'd rather you just go for it with everything you got than to give us 3 songs that are not whack at all, but just kind of like cool. So again, if you're a person that don't listen to everything and you have the things you like and you like that first album, this might be a nice little, sample size for what's to come. But I was just disappointed because I expected a little bit more. And when I say that, I mean just more songs. So I'm definitely going to be listening to it, but I don't even feel like as an EP, it's going to make my top of the year because for me, I'm listening to a ton of hip hop and that competition is crazy. You got to have something that's dope. And we got so many albums that we know are coming this year. I'm saying. So there you have it. Have you heard Lloyd Banks' new album? Benny the Butcher's new EP? Jericho Jackson's new EP? Leave your comments in the comment section below. What do you think about the whole Rhymefest and Eminem and the fact that it's a video receipt and is this like one of them hip hop media go viral moments that Rhymefest thought he could just get in? Why would he say that? Leave your comments in the comment section below. And also, obviously, about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. How do you feel about it? Does it mean anything to you as a hip hop fan? Follow the podcast in audio form on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts to listen to, including this one. Subscribe, review it on Apple Podcasts. I have 5 stars, but I don't have enough reviews to really, feel like, yeah, my podcast has 5 stars. So go to Apple Podcasts if you already do and review the podcast for me. Whatever the review is, doesn't have to be glowing. You can say, yo, dog, I don't like you. Whatever, I do not care. Just go and review. But also on this channel, on YouTube, We are closely closing in on 10,000 subscribers. We want to get to 10,000 by the end of the year. So if you came across this podcast and you like the content, hit the like button. If you love it, subscribe. But more importantly, share it with people you know enjoy this kind of content. Until next time, y'all, I'm not a critic. I am a fan.
McLovin
Peace.